That's weird. I don't know if that worked.
I think it did. Yeah, we're alive.
Okay. I feel like I'm dead, but no, it's not that bad. I heard a coughing.
So hello to the viewers. I don't know if we
Hello.
have any. Don't know if we have any viewers yet, but they'll soon show up.
We have my minx. Lorelai. What you doing, you little minx? I'm trying to think. No, you're not going over there. You're not doing it. No. You're gonna try the direct method now? Just charge on over there? No. Lorelai, baby girl.
She's a
Good
cutie.
sitting.
We've got Lynn and we've got Elle. So hello to both of you.
I have to teach her that one aria from Magic Flute. She's a little witch when she wants to be, aren't you?
Oh, you think she's the queen of the night?
Yes.
That one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello? Did you say hello? You did? Sea salt. He's determined to get a cough drop. He doesn't know what it is, but how dare I put a cough drop in my mouth without him getting it. Right, Cecil? My big boy.
We got Falcon Sue and Nisa Banerjee as well. So hello to you both. Just in time to maybe see Sugar playing, perhaps.
I'm gonna have to buy more vine rings. That's the last one. I'm digging around. That's the only one I can find. She's chewed up the other one quite a bit, so that's a look almost as if she's saying, "You're not actually showing this to people, are you?"
He doesn't know that she's live on YouTube. So everybody can see her.
She's something's going on because she raised the feathers on the back of her neck, which they only say it's comparable to a dog raising its hackles. Actually, it's not. Obviously, it has nothing to do with one. They're not the same kind of animal at all. But she's looking at me like, "Why are you pointing that thing at me? You're not actually taking a video or something, right?" I don't play. I don't play with toys. That's the rule, right? But she's sitting there holding on to it.
And Rosebud and Calvin joined us as well. Hello, YouTube.
Hey, Kay, what you doing back there? Yeah, uh-huh. I heard that. What's going on, KK Goodbird? Mander was totally adamant today. I would have had to tell him to get him out. And I'm not going to do that. So unless it goes more than 2 days, then I'll do it. But
Mm. Poor
I could
Mander.
throw a rubber I could throw a rubber snake in there or something, a little negative
No. He
reinforcements.
shall feel safe in his cage.
I know I wouldn't do that, but
I know what you mean, but it's a funny thought, but it's like, yeah, you have to think it
uh,
to the end.
yeah, you don't want to do that kind of thing because he's got to feel secure
Mm,
in his cage. But it would definitely work. I know how he is, boy. A rubber snake would do it.
mm.
I mean,
But
some of
then he
them
would
might
never.
enjoy having a rubber snake to swim with.
No, you're not doing it. Come here. Come here. No, minx. No, no, minx. She's
So
got so many
Lisa
names, so she must.
Benety says the air quality in her area is 157.
Ouch.
Yep, it's horrible.
We reached.
And Calvin Thurston writes emotional damage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he watches the same Chinese YouTuber who does these emotional damage videos with his where he plays his father himself, and yeah, that's funny. But there from there I know this emotional damage thing.
reached 486 the day that we were getting that smoke from the Sierras. The forecast is we're supposed to get. We'll probably be in the 200s by later today, but I have an app that does the forecasting. You have to use 5 or 6 different apps just to figure out what's going on with the fires and the smoke. So there isn't one of them that works by itself. What does my watch say it is right now? It's 54 out right now, which is not good for them, but better than 170 something. So with any luck, we'll have some clear tomorrow, and I can open the windows for a while. It's only what, I think it's about 38 centigrade. It's 100 degrees. That's pretty cool today. Did you mean to drop that, or was it by? Oh, you didn't mean to drop it. Okay. If she
Yeah,
meant to drop it, and I go ahead.
Rosebud had to put drops in her dog's eyes because of all the smoke.
Yeah, it keeps getting worse, and they just ignore it. They being the useless governments that runs the place. So, and I'm not just talking about the one in power. I'm saying just in general. They'll find
Mm.
some way to spend the money somewhere else rather than on us. So, you're just going to hold it now? If she didn't want it when I handed it to her, she would have just let it go. But there's a photograph right there. Look at those two.
Hmm. Should turn that into a greetings card.
I'm not sure if I can get my phone to take a picture. Yep, I did.
And Spirit Matter says hello from the East Coast. No wildfires or earthquakes here. That's good to hear. And hello, Spirit Matter.
Hello, Spirit Matter. No, you have the hurricanes and tornado thing over there. And flooding. I have a friend over there too who's constantly complaining about how much water there is. But got an ex-wife over there too, but she doesn't complain about the weather, so she'll just complain if there's no Rocky she can go to. No Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh.
She's actually brilliant in one of those. So
Yeah, I've been
What are you
listening
doing
to the
there?
soundtrack a lot lately. It's obviously good. I don't know all the words.
Yeah, yeah. She knows not only all the words, but she knows every response to everything that goes on the screen. I mean, every potential variation of it. She also
Oh,
knows
so
exactly where every.
yeah,
Huh?
so like when you put the newspaper on your head and when you call Janet a slut and all of that.
Yeah, well, she knows. I mean, she knows how to. She's actually a good stage man. Well, a good. She's a great stage manager. She'll make sure that the right prop is in the right place at the right time. She knows it that well. Been doing it for 40 years, so she could probably do
Yeah.
any kind of stage play, but you can't convince her of that. She only does Rocky, but she could do any kind of stage play.
I've never seen it on the stage actually. I've only seen the movie, but I'd love to see
Yeah,
it.
it's amazing. I was actually I did lighting at Midnight Insanity for what 7 months. So, and they were the biggest in the world production. Finally, it went down, but I don't know if they've started up another variety of it or not. But that was an amazing experience. And then I played Frank 13 times at the Colton Theater. So,
Wow.
well, they couldn't find anybody else. My wife managed to put together in 2 weeks. What happened was the Colton had a Saturday night show, but they didn't have a Friday night show. So she went in and told the manager of the Colton Theater that she had a cast and that we could start in 2 weeks. And then we went down to some of the people I sold to. I was working at a plumbing supply. Some of the people who worked with me, we formed a cast, and so they're all going, "Well, who can do Frank?" Right? And finally, they look at me. It's like, "Are you kidding?" I was the inventory manager at the time, and my wife goes, "He's got an incredible memory for that kind of thing. He can do it." Well, I did it, but it was that was a lot of work. One of the other guys wanted to try it one night, and he did it. He went through it. He goes, "I'm never doing that again."
Mm.
He's dying to do the part, and he goes, "Oh, that's just too much." He goes, running down the theater in 6-inch high heels. He says, "I'm never trying that again." It's just this was oh,
Just got to
it was
practice.
fun. Yeah, yeah, it was something else. What are you doing up there? Well, that part, you're on the stage, you're doing something on the stage or down the aisles or whatever for all but 20 minutes of the entire movie. So
Yeah, it's a big role.
yeah, you're it isn't just coming down the aisle and tapping your feet at the beginning, doing with the cape on. So, and I don't know, there's what seven seven changes of costume. So,
Mm.
and my amazing wife made these Frank has to wear all these vests and stuff. She made them using sequins. She put like thousands of sequins on these things, rhinestones. It was just amazing. She's quite the
Wow.
seamstress too. Yeah, she did all that. I thought about asking her if she would make a Frank costume for Bob, but he just eat the sequins, knowing that. I did
Yeah.
that for Cecil. Cecil probably wouldn't eat the sequins. Cecil he'd make a better Frank maybe.
You maybe put the costume on Peaches, but she would have been too good and nice to be anyone in the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, she would have been
Yeah.
Columbia for sure.
What do you think?
She just would have. Yeah, I think she'd be Columbia
Well, tap
or
dancing.
Coco. Yeah, Coco would have been magenta. Tapping the phone to try to get it to take a picture of that. it does, it's supposed to work. It works when you don't want it to. Come on. I can't press the buttons because if I press the buttons, then it might just lose the whole thing. All right, I give up. It's gonna work. Try the other hand. Got it. Okay. You still got your toy? Well, the topic today is not going to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show, sadly. It's going to be about avian medicine and why it's not progressing as fast as it should be. So, what we have learned and what we're not learning, what we need to learn. I did my research. I always, besides looking at the books I have and that kind of thing, and looking online for specifics, I also asked ChatGPT, and it said something about vaccines. And I went back and said, can you name one vaccine that exists for parrots? And the only one it could name was the one for the polyoma virus. And I said, is there any evidence that it works? And that was the end of that. It doesn't work. So what good is it? There are no vaccines for these guys. There's no vaccines. Surgically, we've had a lot of surgical advancements. They've just come up with a new way to deal with prolapses, which has been done for a year now and appears to be working. But we need, obviously more studies on it, more veterinarians doing it. But we have had some advances there, but nothing really in preventative medicine. Just the usual, you look at the poop and you check the weight, and you look at, you go through and feel the body to make sure there's no lumps and everything's right. And of course, the average person can't tell just by running their hands over a bird if what they're feeling is right or not. So we should have some kind of a device. Again, the medical devices are almost non-existent too. They're just using things for other animals. One of the medical devices we need is to tell if a female's actually making an egg. I mean, I don't see why that device can't be created. But again, it will come down to the reasons they're not doing it and why we're not getting this kind of information, even though there is some evidence to say there are actually more parrots than there are cats in the U.S. But even if they're the third animal, they're getting almost no treatment by the community as far as support for this kind of research. So we have a few veterinarians like Dr. Ritchie, doing work, but most of what we find out is anecdotal from veterinarians that deal with these birds all the time. Do you want down? Is that what you're trying to tell me? You're done with that toy? Or you still want it? Still want it. Okay. You do that to Cecil when he throws the toy. Oh, you tossed it away again. Okay, you're done. All right. I'll put it somewhere where Cecil can't get it. Because if Cecil gets it, there'll be nothing left of it.
Mm. And Sugar loves it so much. Oh, Shuggy. Shug. Is that Snowball admiring Jasmine back there?
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
And Jasmine's half asleep, so it's not bothering her. She's looking at him once in a while. But...
In another dimension with voyeuristic intention.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a bunch of tricks they use at the Rocky Horror Picture Show to get you to admit that you've never seen it before. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not giving away those secrets, but someone will ask you some questions. You'll answer them wrong, and you'll end up in front of everybody in compromising positions. Nothing, nothing horrible, but it's a memorable experience.
I've heard that you're supposed to wear a stripy jumper if it's your first time, so they know, but they can probably tell anyway.
Well, I could just ask you a couple of questions, and your answers would say right away. I used to kick. There'd be huge lines around the building to go into Midnight Insanity, and I'd be standing there, and I'd hear somebody asking a question of someone, and they'd answer it, and what they call it. If you haven't been to the show like that way, you're called a virgin. So they'd answer it in some virgin way, and the next thing you know, they'd get a mark on them. And they'd be like, "Oh, that's funny. Why did you do that?" Usually, they mark you up with lipstick or something like that, and then they were up on stage. Yeah. So, but I'm not giving away those secrets, because it's fun. Excuse me. I still have that cough thing. My throat clogs up, but yeah, it's fun. Everybody should get a chance to go to a live presentation where they act with the movie. And nobody should be told what they do. I mean, there are films of it, some different productions that you can see, but audience participation videos. Well, the main reason, and I'm not going to look at my notes because I know this stuff, but I'll double check at the end. The main reason that these guys, there's not much headway being made medically, is because there's no funding. These big organizations that fund that kind of research, they'll fund it for dogs and cats if there's money in it. If they're looking at a medicine that would have to be given regularly to an animal, not an antibiotic or something like that. We're lucky to have what we have on antibiotics because there's no money in them. You take a few shots for an animal, or you give it to them for a week and you're done. Well, these big companies, they don't care. They don't care if your animal lives or dies. They just want the animal to be on medicine forever. What are you doing over there? Snowball. Oh, nice throat there. Snowball. Snowball. You're going to cause trouble. Snowball. Sorry, Lorelai. Trying to hit Snowball with my left hand. I think you're engendering a little bit of mate territoriality. Oh, he's going to go ahead and preen him now. He walked over being a little mate, being aggressive because of his mate, but they aren't aggressive by nature, so he just calmed down.
Well, all four umbrellas not sitting on you, but on the cage. What's wrong with them? Or what's wrong with you today? Do they not find the living purge?
Cecil and Lorelai went over there to try to draw Cecil over so they could have a little time together. That's Lucy's regular spot. And then Snowball went over to try to be part of a threesome. It doesn't work terribly well.
So they seem to love to accumulate.
Yeah.
Flocking.
So they can't get the funding.
Let's welcome Jamin Jamie, who has donated $3 in chat. So thank you for that, and welcome, Jamin.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really helps. Every penny. These guys are a little expensive. Yeah, and I got to cook breakfast for you every morning, don't I? Yeah. Now watch it with the beak. He's still a little out of sorts because someone climbed up when he was trying to have private time with his mate. His neutered mate, for those who don't know. And no, you aren't going to neuter your bird because you don't have that much money and you don't want to be sitting outside the surgery room waiting for an hour while the surgeries going on, wondering if your bird's still going to be alive. Only done when there's excess egg production that you can't control with anything else. Because Laurelin didn't work. I tried all kinds of fun stuff. Nothing worked. So she had an egg with a thin shell, and then she was in for surgery. Right, Lorelei? Anesthesia on these guys is not pleasant. But we, like I say, we have moved a little bit in the surgery area. But as far as preventative medicine, no. There's no, well, they actually don't know, still don't know what causes, they have a new name for it. I can't remember. It used to be called PDD. They don't know what causes it. They think it's a Bornavirus, but you know, there's 6 different varieties there, and that doesn't tell you what. Most birds will test positive for that. So when I say most, 9 out of 10, from what I hear from the medical community, the Avian med community. You're not going down there, minx. You're not doing it. No. No. You're not going down to see him. No. I don't know what you have in your mind, but it's not going to work out because I've seen the way you try to interact with him. So we're going to keep you away from him. No, you're not going. No, you're not going down there. No, no, no. Yeah, you think it's funny, Cecil? Is that why you're laughing? She's persistent, this one, aren't you, girl? Are you persistent? They can't get the grant money to do studies. Dr. Ritchie gets some because they don't see what benefit is it to these big corporations. They're going to, if they do come up with something, it might be used a few times. Well, there's no profit in that. I don't believe in the profit system, and that's one of the reasons, because there are so many birds, millions of birds in this country and around the world, and they're not getting the medical care because these big pharmacies just want to keep pumping money into the ultra rich pocket. These guys with these palatial buildings they call homes, you know, we got to put an end to that somehow. Because honestly, there's millions of them, and they could use some better health care, but the grants aren't there for it. You have to write a grant, and I know because we're a nonprofit. When you go to write grants, you have to show somehow where it's going to benefit some in the long term, somebody who's got pockets that want to be filled. And it's just not happening. With dogs and cats, it happens all the time.
So we have 2 new chatters. We have E. Schwartz here and Flora Barma Bell. So hello and welcome to you both. And E. Schwartz actually has a question. Can current research done for poultry apply to parrots much?
Some of it does. But the vaccinations and that kind of thing don't. So, well, actually, when they first formulated the foods for parrots, they were looking at poultry research. And while these guys do have some similar requirements, for example, you don't see, here's an example of where it doesn't work. You don't see poultry eating nuts, do you? Well, macaws do. They have to have a certain amount of nuts in their diet. They require it. So we know that difference. And there are a lot of other differences that we don't know. So the majority of the food is based on poultry and then modified by whatever knowledge we do have, which is kind of limited. And there are a lot of differences between poultry, which is a genetically modified animal that we have, chickens and turkeys and that kind of thing, as opposed to these species that are, these are species that are natural in the wild. You found her toy, did you? I hid it back there for a reason.
Did
And you went
you?
right for it. Yeah, so that
I'm
it's
just
just for
joking.
sugar. I have to order more of those rings. It takes about a week or two to get them from the supplier, and I have to order a minimum and that kind of thing.
Mm. Oh,
So,
Cecil. Shuggy has a tie and you won't eat. The guy with the 100 of toys.
hmm I like that new toy. I want it. I don't blame them.
Mm.
I just want her to have that for a while I'm ordering the other ones. But so that's a problem. Another problem is that there are many veterinarians, and veterinarians help to drive this research, um, that are not going into the field. And part of the reason can be explained by, I was talking to a company that does insurance for animals, okay? And they have some misunderstanding about birds too. They were saying, well, the bird has to be 1 or 2, no more than 2 years old in order for us to insure it. I said, an animal that can live for 80 years, they have to be less than 2 years old, kind of. But they gave me a number at the time. This was quite some time ago, but for the birds I was insuring, what we had at the time was 6. And they only had 6,000 people in the entire country insuring their birds. So that meant that when you went in to get, you did your annual exams, instead of paying $300 for the CBC, the blood count, and you might get out of there for 200. So it was well worth the $50 a bird, that kind of thing. But people just weren't taking their animals in. So if you learn this specialization, avian science, which takes an extra 2 years of study and then 2 more years of residency, how is that going to benefit you financially? You would think that was the major reason that they're not doing it. But actually, the major reason they're not doing it, from what I heard, this is anecdotal, I heard it from one of the vets I know, is that because we don't have enough medical science to back up what we're doing. A lot of times you can't help the bird. So people are deciding not to go into it because they don't want to, basically you're doing a bunch of study to fail because you won't have the tools you need to protect the birds. So there isn't much in the way of preventative science here. So the veterinarians, we're losing avian veterinarians as they grow older and drop out, and they're not being replaced. So there's another reason we're not getting a lot of research, because who's going to put it in place? There's a lot of cities, a lot of parts of the world where there isn't an avian veterinarian within 100 miles. So the exotic veterinarians can fill in to a certain degree. They generally can't do the surgeries, that kind of thing, but they can do the diagnostics, and some of them are pretty good at that. But an exotic veterinarian deals with turtles and snakes and all that other stuff too. So they have a wider range to choose from. But an avian vet, they're just qualified to work with birds. So a lot of those avian vets go into poultry science rather than dealing with the parrots. Hey, big boy, what are you doing? Hey, KK. So if more people took their birds in, who are close to avian vets, that would create a bit more of a clamor for some kind of research. But again, you got to get those tightwads that are only concerned about making money to come on up if you want to come up. You want to come up? All right, take the elevator. You got to get these tightwads to open their pockets when there isn't going to be what they see a return on investment. That's the actual name of what runs most countries, is return on investment. You know, the rest of it is just smoke and mirrors. So, and it's important. There are diseases like beak and feather disease. If that gets in the wild, it can wipe out just entire populations. But the research on it is, you know, moving like a snail at a snail's pace, because what does, you know, any big corporation care whether all these birds die in the wild? They don't. Now there are groups that are trying to fund some of this, but you know, there's limited capital there. There are some groups that are trying to fund research to save the birds in the wild, but as far as the ones in captivity, we're not seeing much done there.
So Ishwat says the limited avian vets here have parrots themselves and lovebirds.
Yeah, that's how people get caught into this, trying to help the parrots, is by ending up with one in your environment, right? Um, I knew one young lady who was going to become an avian vet, and she had a fascination for them and wanted to come over and see our birds. But the it's just that they are seen as something other than what they are. That's the problem. They're seen like a cute thing that you take out of the cage once in a while to show people, see, I have a parrot, but that's not really what they are. If you have these guys and you actually work with them and learn to play and teach them and just be part of their lives, you realize there's so much more than that. Yesterday, I noticed I had stopped putting peanut butter sauce on the birdie bread, and so yesterday I put the food into Romeo's cage, and he walked right over and looked in the bowl and looked at me, and I hadn't put that on for a week or so. And he looks down, he looks at me and says, "You want peanut butter sauce on it?" I knew what he was saying, that it was missing what he liked in there. So I put the peanut butter sauce. I came back a little bit later, and it was, you know, the birdie biscuit was gone. So he was letting me know that, you know, I was doing something wrong. You know, he wanted something else. So, and I see that kind of thing frequently. In the morning when I'm done giving her medicine, she takes it on peanut butter. You can give it to her with a syringe, but she has an uncanny ability to spit it out. So if it's in peanut butter, she won't do that. But when she's done, if I look over and she's just sitting there looking at me, as I've, you know, given treats around, she'll just look at me in a certain way, and I know she wants more peanut butter. She gets a little bit more that way. Yeah, but if she's over playing with her toys, she doesn't. But it's when she's staring at me and I know she wants it, right, baby? But it's a certain look too. I can't describe it. I mean, there's a certain position of the feathers, an angle of the head. There's all that goes into where's my peanut butter. Lorelei does it a different way, and so does Cecil. They'll hold the empty stick up. So if you look at Lorelei and there's no peanut butter on the stick, you only get a little bit of peanut butter on the stick. But if you look over there, still holding the stick and looking at you, they want another stick of peanut butter. That's if they don't hold it, they're not holding it, they don't. So they communicate all the time. And you would think that there would be a lot more research on these guys because they are so smart. And because there's so many of them, we would see more medical research. But again, it really comes down to that, you know, this false idea that everything should be driven by profit. And it's one thing's for certain, these guys don't profit from that attitude. Now, they shouldn't be in homes, they should be in the wild. But, I mean, he's got another 50 or 60 years in him if nothing goes wrong. tough in these environments to keep them safe, but even if we can get the breeding stopped today, there are still going to be plenty of birds out there for people who want them. And the reason is not that many people really want them. Once they're in their homes, they're more interested in whatever else they're doing in their lives than they are the birds. So there's only a small percentage of people who actually appreciate them. So there's plenty of birds out there for everybody. But again, if we can stop the breeding, then that's going to stop the research probably too. Again, everything being driven by profit is the wrong way to drive things. But
Jam and
and if
Jamie
you're
would
look,
like to know what kind of peanut butter you give the birds.
yeah, that's a good question. You don't want to go for the organic peanut butters because what they are is just peanuts that have been blended up. And the problem with that is there's not enough oil, so your birds will choke on it. If you take like organic peanut butter, especially the one you have to stir yourself, and you put it in your mouth, just eat the peanut butter by itself. See if you don't need a glass of water afterwards. So you have to compromise and go for something that has stabilizers in it. So I use Skippy, but any commercial stabilized peanut butter, that they add a little sugar and they add some salt, but you're not giving them much of it. So if you want to make it yourself at home, and which you can do with a food processor, and you add enough peanut oil to it and make sure it's stirred and test it yourself to make sure it doesn't gag you, then you could do that way. But or you can take commercial organic, and you can put it in a food processor if you can get it out of the jar. Add more peanut oil to it until it's smooth and it doesn't cause you to choke. Again, test it on yourself, right? But we use Skippy, don't we? And I found out that they could choke on it the hard way because I was using a 1 milliliter tuberculin syringe to squirt water into Coco's beak until she stopped choking. So, and it was just a tiny bit of peanut butter. We're talking just a little tiny bit of it. And that's when I stopped using organic. Some places will make their own peanut butter there too. But again, when they do that, most of the time they're just doing the peanuts, not adding any oil. So you gotta stir it too because it will separate. Hi, baby. Hi, Cecil. Hello, Cecil. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. There we go. Hi, Cecil. So most of the advances we've seen in avian medicine have been in surgery and surgical techniques. There's quite a bit of money in surgery. Yeah. So if you're trying to deal with something like a prolapse, those surgeries are around $1,000, depending on the surgeon. If you can find one. Any of the big surgeries, again, they're big money, so that's something that you'll see advances in. But when it comes down to just keeping them healthy, there isn't much. So we just have to try to feed them what we believe is right. We've talked about all that before. Check their poop, check their weight, and that's all we've really got. We should have more than that. How about a device that would read their cardiac rate and also be able to read how well they're breathing? I mean, that's something we could all use. You could attach it to, have a device that would connect with your phone and do that kind of stuff. But it's not being developed. Millions of birds, and Few of them get taken in for even regular checks. One veterinarian said that he hated to see birds. He saw more than one type of animal, so exotic vet. So he hated to see birds because people would bring them in when they were dying. My bird's been on the bottom of the cage for 3 days. What size coffin would you like? Hi. Hi, Cecil.
Lorelai, are you still progressing in your speaking practice? Yesterday she practiced to say cockatoo. Or
Yeah.
it sounded more like the German word actually, cockatoo.
Cockatoo.
Cockatoo. But
Cockatoo.
it came pretty close. So maybe she's plotting.
When she wants to learn something, she learns it. She's quick.
Mm-hmm.
She's a quick girl, aren't you? Sneaky, but a quick girl.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely hates me. I don't know why she hates
me. Yeah. Oh, Lorelai. She's a daddy's girl.
Yeah, it was pretty tough to take her in and get that surgery done, but I didn't have a choice.
Mm-mm. It was
It was
pretty
just
bad back then.
one right after the other. Just overproducing eggs. As soon as she hit adulthood, she immediately started pulling her feathers out. Had to put her on Haldo. You could take it away from her now, and she'd probably go a few weeks without doing anything, and then you'll find just feathers everywhere. So looks like she's on it for life. They're not looking for any solution to that. They don't make drugs for these guys, by the way. There isn't a drug out there made for a parrot. Every drug is something some veterinarian tried out on a bird to try to solve a problem. So meloxicam comes under a lot of names like meloxidil. There are many different names for it, but that's basically what we have as a painkiller for these guys and an anti-inflammatory. It wasn't designed for them. It was designed for dogs and cats, of course. Actually, they found out that it isn't so good for dogs and cats now, but it doesn't seem to bother the birds. The research, somebody actually chose to do the research. They did research in England, and they discovered that if you give them massive doses over a period of 6 weeks, it doesn't change their blood chemistry at all. Which is to say, all this talk about how meloxicam affects the livers, you will see that if you're on any of these horrible platforms like Facebook. You'll see them talk about, it killed my bird. No, your bird was dying of something else, and they gave it meloxidil, and it died anyway. No, the research shows it doesn't affect their liver or their kidney or anything, even in high doses over a long period of time. But with dogs and cats, that's a little questionable there. But all the medicines that you get for your bird were made for something else. The number one antibiotic for these guys is Baytril. There are a few others. Baytril was made for dogs and cats. And it's Baytril because Bayer made it. I don't have a lot good to say about Bayer as a company, and there's good reason for that because they're pushing a drug right now that I don't think actually is good for any animal. I think they just want to sell it now that they developed it. And it wasn't developed for animals anyway. But we have to thank them for that, because without Baytril, a lot of birds would already be dead. Because when they need an anti-inflammatory, that's the go-to anti-inflammatory. And there's another problem is that, veterinarians are the only ones who can dispense some of these drugs. And if you don't have an avian veterinarian close to you, how are you going to get these drugs for your animal, even if you recognize they need them? I mean, you might be able to get a regular vet to draw blood and then send it to a lab, and then get an avian vet somewhere to read it, like Dr. Jenkins at the Avian and Exotic Animal Hospital in San Diego, to read that and tell you what's wrong. But then you have to go through this incredible paper jungle to try to get something done. Oh, well, you can't buy that. I could buy it if I were in Mexico. I could walk right up to the pharmacy and say, I need this, and get it. But not here. The land of the free. Free to spend your money, but not free to get what you need, right? So what are you going to do with Baytril? If you get Baytril for your bird that has been the vet somewhere else in the country says is your bird needs, what are you going to do? Swallow it yourself? Why can't you get it when you need it? That's the stupidity of the medical system here. But it comes down to the percentage that veterinarians and doctors get from the drugs they prescribe. So it's tough. We have the big companies that won't make drugs. Well, another good example there is we need new antibiotics for humans. We need new antibiotics. Why aren't they making them? Because you take an antibiotic for 7 to 10 days. They're making the drugs people have to take forever. They want you to stay sick, right? You would think so, because if you're still sick and you still have to take the drug, then they make the money. That's the wrong attitude. And it certainly hurts these guys because we can't get them what they need, right? Well, Cecil, is that right?
So Giselle says prednisone and tramadol are also popular human veterinarian meds.
Yep.
And
But you know how
Jocelyn
low.
admits that cinnamon is back to normal, so that's also great to hear.
Yeah, I saw that picture on Telegram. Yeah. They will have moments when things change like that. Sometimes it can be because they started eating something different. Maybe they've got a food they don't normally eat, and they eat it, so their poop will change for a day or two. You could try that with cherries, and you look at the red in their poop, and you go, "Oh my God!" But it's just the cherry juice. It will stain their poop. So I found that out the hard way with turmeric. I had 3 birds all of a sudden come up with, horrible smelling poop, and I couldn't get an appointment at either of my regular vets, so I ended up going to another one, and in a different. Instead of heading south, I was heading north, and we were talking, and he says, "Has there been any change in their diet?" And they had eaten Indian food, so I tested it out because none of the things in the Indian food were going to be hurting them. I had already confirmed that, so it was turmeric. About 1 out of 3 birds, if you give them turmeric, will have a horrible poop for a few days after it. So it's kind of like if a lot of people who eat beets, if you eat fresh beets, cook them up and eat them, you will have what looks like blood coming out in your urine, but that's just the coloration from the beet. The first time you see that, it might be a little shocking, though. So some things will pass through their system. By the way, you may see me petting her improperly occasionally. She's mated to Cecil, and she's half asleep on my chest, and it's not doing anything. She sees me more like her dad anyway. So, but again, that's knowledge. I've been around her for a long time. I have the training. You can make assumptions like that and end up being sorry you did. with a bird that's biting you and you don't know why. She's not going to bond to me. She's already bonded to Cecil, so she's half asleep. I do not recommend petting these guys anywhere below the head. Got to be careful on the beak too, not too long on the beak, although it doesn't bother Sugar because she's mated to me and she doesn't produce eggs. So she doesn't show any signs of mating behavior other than wanting me to pet her beak, right? You going to try that? So it's a problem. We don't have the ongoing research about these guys. We don't have the preventative measures other than the ones that I stressed, which is checking the poop, making sure that their weight doesn't drop, or in some cases go up. You know, if they're producing an egg, it'll go up, right? So that'll tell you, oh, that means you're watching for things like egg binding and issues like that. And it's important for the birds in the wild too, because these diseases, there are many of these diseases, PDD, beak and feather. These were all created by good old human beings by packing these animals, mostly steer, into a small area where disease gets transmitted. That's where we get these hotbeds of viruses from things like that. That's where the swine flu came from. They call it the swine flu. They could just as easy call it the American flu. You just got in my way there, so I'm trying to put the camera on her. He gets his tail over the phone. So you'd think if we've created these diseases that are bad for them, we would do something to mitigate that, come up with a vaccine or some kind of cure, but it's not financially feasible. But we do have some tools, and we have to use what we have. I highly recommend getting the Basava manual, the British Small Animal Veterinary Association's book on citizen birds. Are you going to put that tail over the camera the whole time here, little boy? It's a little out of date, but still the basic information there is important to know. Delve into science a little bit, learn a little bit about how their bodies work. It can help you save their lives. Right, baby? Well, folks, that's the hour. So remember, we have a website. It's chloesanctuary.org. From there, you can make donations if you want. We also have our link tree, which links to all of our various and sundry things. We're on Telegram, and we're on Patreon and Discord. No Facebook. I don't. You know, not only does the guy who owns that company look like he's from another planet, a lizard man or whatever, I don't like the way they control things. You get 10,000 members or 10,000 people who like your website or your page, and then they make you pay to talk to them. No, they can, as Sam Harris said, they can take that and shove it. We're not doing that. But we are on Telegram, which on Telegram you can directly contact me. You can directly message me, which is cool. And then when we send out any kind of notifications, you can turn it on so you'll know whenever we're doing something.
We have a last question by Giselle, who wants to name the name of the book.
The Basava Manual, BSAVA Manual for Citizen Birds. P.S. All right, guys. They're dancing on my arm now. P.S. Wait a minute. P.S. I can't spell citizen right now.
PSITTACINE.
Thank you. I
Thank
just had
you.
one of those lapses where your brain can't spell it. I don't know. I actually use one of my names I use on some of these services that has the word citizen in it. So I should be able to always spell it, but I'm not sure I can always spell my own name, right?
Looks
Sugar?
like poor Giselle is just being hit by an earthquake. Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Oh no, I don't need that.
Certainly not. Nobody needs that.
Oh, stay safe, Giselle.
So Flora
You got it.
Obama said that you're such a great caregiver.
Oh,
Oh, that's
thank
nice.
you. I try. I try, don't I? Should.
And
Well, they have
Spirit
very
Letter
exacting
applies again for
standards.
your job. Sorry, Eleanor.
I was saying that the birds have very exacting standards, so Don has no choice but to be an excellent caregiver.
Mm.
And don't forget we have merchandise too. Our link tree has a link to our merchandise where we have sugar and some peaches and cups and all kinds of stuff.
And
All
if
kinds
you
of
have any further ideas what you like on the merch, you can always make suggestions here in the chat or on our platforms like Discord or Telegram. When it's in Telegram, Don will tell me.
Yeah. The major thing about these platforms is that you can get a hold of us a lot better. I don't like these corporately controlled platforms that if I were to actually put out a message to you on Facebook, there's a 1 in 10 chance you would see it unless I paid them $20 or $30. I'm not doing that. And not only don't we have the money, I don't believe in their platforms. And I know people who've been around, the older you are, the less likely you are to do like something like go to Telegram or like, is it safe? If you think Facebook is safe, well, I've got a piece of swampland here to sell you in the Mojave Desert. It's a real cool piece of swampland. You wouldn't believe the ducks that come in every year. So Telegram and Discord are much safer platforms to be on. So I know I used to be a computer geek. That's what I did for a living. So, well, guys, we will see you next time, which will be Wednesday, right? What do you say? Lucy, do you have anything to say?
She says, pretty bird.
Lovely Lucy, pretty bird. Thank you, Amy and Eleanor, for your wonderful moderation and letting me know what people are saying. And Jasmine is still sleeping. She'll be awake in just a minute. And thank you.